Hey, everybody, we're doing a new thing. We're doing the rewind reel. So we handpicked this episode because we thought that there was tremendous value. Check it out, re-listen. It's always good to sharpen the what?
The rewind wheel, the brain, the sword.
Oh! Boom!
Oh, yes it is, my friends.
There it is.
That's an entrance.
Podcast without the chains.
Love it. That's an entrance.
That is an
This
entrance.
this is how back in the day, the business owner would try to be awesome to his employees so he would get a chair that was higher than his employees. I don't even know if this shit's true, but I remember reading about it. This is what we do here with a podcast. When I come into interviews, I just make sure that my background is like, we're like, oh, you don't have HD cameras? Oh, you don't have an awesome background with chains? Oh. So we'll just pretend like the first part didn't happen when I came with a horrible pre-frame.
You should have somebody chained up in the back, shirtless, like the Roman days.
That's right. We'll just like we'll take one of my programmers. We'll just wrap up in the chain. It'll be light enough.
They deserve it.
Put back there. Well, I'm excited to talk to you guys. You guys have definitely been relentless, and I appreciate that. I
Never give up.
been a thing for the past couple of years. I just haven't done anything. I literally turn down 3-4 different speaking events a month, and I turn down 8 or 9 podcasts every month, and it's not because I don't care about people. I'm like, dude, we put enough content out there, and I got so much stuff going on. I'm like, let's not do it. But I'm actually very passionate about the topic that you guys are up to. That's why when Sammy came to me, he was like, dude, these guys are relentless. They're not stopping. They really want you to know. He's like, what should I tell them? They called back after you told them to call back. I was like, oh shit. All right, let's do it. That was November. He's like, no, they want to know now. I was like, all right, fuck it. So here we are.
Love it. Thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate your time, first off. We know you're incredibly busy. And maybe you want to start off talking about that. Talk to us a little bit about, for anybody, there's going to be a lot of people that don't know who you are or the warrior movement that we'd love to, we think that it would really help.
That would be awesome. Hey, Johan, go grab me a warrior book and a Be the Man book so I can show them something. You got 2 right there? Of course you do. We don't have cameras that are working when it's starting, but we do have books in here. That's good. And we got Gatorade. That's good. Okay. So I'm gonna show you 2 things. All right. So these books started the whole thing. Like this, I put my face in the middle. This is where it all began. Right? This conversation. But
that's it.
They were actually wrote in a different order. Warrior book was written after this book. We have 4 other books that are coming out. We actually get the publishing for Attack with the Stack from my publisher comes this Friday. Our first 500 copies. Next 5,000 will show up 3 weeks from now. And then we have 4 other books being published by the end of the year. So we're super busy doing a lot. But here's the base of how it all started. Be the Man as a conversation. And Wake Up Warrior was born out of my own pain and complete dysfunction. As a man, I had been in mortgages and financial services. I actually built the original Paradigm Life, which is owned by Patrick Donahoe, very successful life insurance company right now. Patrick Donahoe worked for me. He was a college kid at the University of Utah when I ran a mortgage company called the Investors Paradigm in Salt Lake City, Utah. And we had a premise, which was that as a mortgage planner, which at that time was a big thing, right? There were mortgage brokers, but I became a mortgage planner with a guy named Stephen Marshall and a whole bunch of other guys at the time that we became a really big thing in the mortgage game. And we completely took over. I acquired 3 or 4 mortgage companies. We merged them. Patrick Donahoe was there. And I'd met a guy, had a really good friend named Garrett B. Gunderson, who wrote Killing Sacred Cows. I became the CEO of his company in 2008. But at that time, we were strategic partners. And he invited me to go to a hotel for a man who is now passed, the author of the infinite banking concept, Mr. Nelson Nash. So I'm going to tie this whole conversation.
I love it.
So I become obsessed with life insurance in 2005. Back in 2003, I bought my first whole life policies from Garrett Gunderson on myself, and it became a competition inside of my mortgage office to see who could get qualified for the most amount of premium on a monthly basis. We didn't have a clue what the fuck we were doing. We just thought it was cool. Garrett had a CD-ROM business card, which was awesome. He had glasses, like, he'd put the glasses, like, put the glass in your mouth, like you're being all smart, like a pipe, but it's glasses. We think he's awesome. So we just buy lots of insurance. So I'm already in the insurance conversation heavily at the time that our mortgage planning, which became insurance, real estate, development, mortgage banking, like we were doing everything all at once. I was highly inspired by Rich Dad Poor Dad, was a PE teacher that became a guy that wanted to get into real estate, but figured out I could sell and had friends who were in mortgages. And so I just went down that path. But Nelson Nash changed my entire perspective around this idea of insurance. And I actually became more converted to banking style policies and the idea of building massive amounts of cash inside of insurance, even more so than Garrett Gunderson, which was crazy because Garrett at the time was one who had taught us about insurance. And we had a huge disagreement when we were strategic partners about the fact that I was like, dude, we are going to overfund these policies, period. And me and Patrick Donahoe, Patrick was working for me at the time. He wanted to go back to school. I'm like, dude, we're making too much money here. Don't go fucking back to school. It's a bad idea. We launched a podcast together called Paradigm Life. The Paradigm Life company is born inside of my company, The Investor's Paradigm. And we're having all these talks about insurance. And then, then the thing happened.
Wow.
Which is 2008 happens.
Yeah, a lot of people heard of that.
We were doing option arms.
Oh,
We're doing interest-only loans. We were stripping equity, and we were putting money into insurance policies, and we were putting money into real estate, and we were putting money into land. We got into currency for a while. That was a horrible idea. And I was one signature away from going to jail.
Wow.
Because of raising money. And we didn't raise money. We refused to do it for whatever reason. We were the only people not raising capital. Call it Patrick. It was probably because Patrick was really smart. So he's like, no, we shouldn't do that. And I had a business partner at the time, Ben Curtis. And so we didn't raise money. Everyone around us, except for Garrett Gunderson and myself, had been raising capital. And
Crazy.
he didn't raise money. I didn't raise money. D. Randall, Horizon Financial, like all these fucking guys that were in the game were raising money around us. Huge Ponzi scheme that was built in Utah with a guy named Rick Kerber. And we had been associated on the outside with this whole group. Garrett and I were running a radio show together. Patrick and I were running podcast radio shows together. We had done a lot, and then we got completely destroyed.
like how much? What was like just to give the scale? Because there's some younger people that listen to us and they don't even remember 2008. Right. Because I was working in the bank, in the financial advisor in the banking business at that time. I remember looking at the screen and going, oh shit, we got a problem, right? And so you're just crushing it. Like at what scale? Like how much were you guys loaning out or lending? How much did you have on the books?
So our brokerage, we had offices inside. I'll look at it from a different way. Even like,
okay,
we were brokering almost everything. We banked on some, but the bigger piece of the story I think is even more significant is that we got our first notification of no payment of commissions in November of October. Shit. We were there in September. We came back. Okay, I'm speaking at the Mortgage Planner Summit in 2007 with Tony Robbins in Las Vegas. We bring the whole crew down. I speak on stage, mortgage coach with Dave Savage, all these guys, like I'm buddies. You can still look up, you Google it on YouTube with mortgage coach Garrett J. White. You can see me speaking on stage at the Mortgage Planner Summit with a suit that was too baggy. Now I wear tight custom boots. Back then I wore baggy custom suits. I don't know why. But at that time, I remember we came back from that event, and it was about 6 weeks later that Greenpoint Mortgage goes down. We had funded and had over $500,000 in commissions due to my company. And we got paid, funded, closed, recorded, not funded. So I come into the office and one of my guys, older guys, we had a whole floor in Salt Lake City, downtown, big building, whole floor filled with our guys. I come in and one of our older guys is just panicked. Like he's just stressing. He's just stressing. Hey, will you turn the air up just a little bit warmer in here, bro? And I have like panic look in his eyes. And this is like a week after we come back from Vegas from this event. And I can't understand why they're all freaking out. But they're stressed, and I'm like, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I hadn't been in the trench selling for a year. I was just managing our sales floors, and it got real bad, real fast, like real fast. And people want to blame the mortgage industry. No. I just wasn't a great businessman.
How did you handle that? That must have been a crazy amount of pressure crashing down on you at once.
It was. I remember walking into Ben Curtis's office. He was my business partner at the time. It was him, me, and Patrick, and Ben's dad, Marv Curtis. And I walk in, and Ben's like, dude, we're done. Now, remember, I'm a PE teacher at 25. So by the time this happens, like 6 years later, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and everything in it, and I go all in. I'm aggressive. I'm far more aggressive than I am smart. Right? Which was like our whole team. We're young. We're in our 20s. All the young dudes now get excited about Bitcoin and all this. That's why people, oh, you want to get in Bitcoin? I was like, fuck you and your Bitcoin. Any of it. Because it used to be currency, and it was like land deals and real estate. No. I've already been through that and got my ass handed to me. Now I sound like the old guys that were talking to me.
Yeah.
Right.
In my late 20s, and they're saying, slow down.
Yeah.
And I didn't listen.
Wow.
So, man, it was completely painful. We lost everything. I had to fire everybody.
Oh,
Let go of my mom, let go of my sisters, let go of, like, my brother worked for me, my brother-in-laws. And the worst part was we got everybody landed with jobs. Patrick Donho, such an amazing guy, took Paradigm Life, got his ass kicked for 4 or 5 years, and turned it around. And I left. I left the industry completely. And I went to a really, really, really fucking dark place. Like a real dark place. And that's the place I talk about here in Be the Man, which was I was exposed. Like my whole life was exposed in a super painful way. I wasn't trying to be a wake-up warrior at that time. I was just trying to survive.
How did you handle it? What did you do? Because you did go from like lots of cash coming in to evaporated, right?
I lied to my wife for about 9 months after. I bet she had no idea anything had happened. Let her keep spending. I took all my personal cash and tried to save the businesses. We kept hitting payroll for way too long. We should have let everybody go way sooner. We didn't, though, because I didn't have any experience with that.
right.
You know, and we lived in a world where we could make mistakes as mortgage guys and land guys and doing real estate. You could fix your mistakes, and if you had a $800,000 problem this month, you could fix it 2 months. Well, we couldn't fix it anymore.
You thought you could buy time and maybe something would happen, right?
That
And
didn't
it just
happen.
kept getting
So
worse.
the money's gone. And I remember I get in a car and I drive down I live in Salt Lake City at the time, and I drive down to Utah County to my friend Eric Kendall, who had originally gotten me, his companies had originally given me an opportunity in mortgages, which was a company called Flagship Financial, which became New Freedom Mortgage. And I drove up there in a sports car, a suit on, no team members, no employee, no company, no money. No, I'm sitting in a parking lot. I remember I'm sitting in a parking lot, I get a cash advance on a credit card that I would never pay for until like 8 years later. $26,000 cash advance at like, I don't know, 37% interest or something. I don't give a shit. Move the money over. I go sit down with my friend Eric. I knock on his door, go in his office, sit down. He's like, bro, what's up? We had been competing with him. My mortgage company, his mortgage company. That's who I started with. We would beat them they would do way more volume, but we would do way more in commissions because of just how much we were making in loans. And it was big competition. I asked him for a job.
That had to be tough.
He thought I was joking. He's looking at me. He's like, dude, his whole crew was at the Mortgage Planners Summit in Las Vegas with me training from stage. And here I am like 9 months later, and I'm knocking on his door asking for a job. And he's like, are you serious? I was like, yeah, dude, I just got to pay my fucking bills, man. Like
Crazy.
So he says, you can take the conference room. So I take the conference room. I set up my big displays, and I come in, and over the next 6 weeks, I do VA home loans. And every day I go out to the parking lot, and I would sit in my car, and I would just fucking cry. I was like, how the fuck. Like, it was like my whole world had gone backwards. Like I could, and the problem was I was too far past. I had gotten so down the path of wealth and finances and dealing with money. I could not be a schlinging VA loan guy anymore. Like I just couldn't do it. I would I would fuck it up. I'd be talking to people and I'd be like, listen, man, I'm going to tell you right now, don't do this loan. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, this is your third refinance in like 12 months. You should stop this shit. You're going backwards. Stop doing this. And then the guys at the office come by and listen to me like, it actually helps to sell things if you encourage the buyer to do the thing that we're selling. I was like, I know I can't do this stuff. So that was like the onslaught of how the whole thing like opened up. That was the birth epicenter of the implosion of my first companies. And I hired a guy by the name of Steve D'Annunzio, who's still a pretty big, life coach inside of the insurance space. And I had hired him in 2006 and prepaid him for 2 years of coaching, which was great. Good idea, because I didn't have any money to pay him. And I went out to the car and I had a call with him, and I sat in the car in Eric's office in the snow, in the winter, in my car that I'm about to get taken because I can't afford it. I can't sell VA loans because I can't hustle these people. I just can't do it. I can't hustle it. I can't fucking hustle these people. I don't believe in this. I can't sell this loan. I can't sell this to these people. And he's listening to me and he's talking to me to give me some counsel. And he says, I want you to look in the mirror. I was like, okay. And so I'm looking in my rearview mirror at myself. So I want you to take a deep breath. I was like, all right. So I take a deep breath. So I want you to close your eyes. So I want to take a deep breath again. So I do. Says, I want you to open your eyes. I want you to look at yourself again. So what's the one word that comes up for you? And the word that rose for me that day that changed everything for me was the word surrender. And I did. Like I didn't quit. I surrendered. There's a difference.
So what does that mean to you?
Surrender for me was like this. It was the beginning of a journey of really coming to understand like who I actually was and what I wanted. I'd been whipped up into a mortgage industry that was just a frenzy. And did I love real estate? Did I love financial services? Did I love it? I didn't know. What did I know? I don't know. I let everything go. My marriage was exposed. I'd spent so many years building these companies and ignored my wife the whole time. And ignored our baby, ignored my son from my first marriage. I had become obsessed with being successful. And here I was in this place where I didn't have any of that. I wasn't an athlete anymore. I wasn't a successful business owner anymore. I didn't have any money. And in this place, I only had one answer, which was submit. And so for the next 4.5 years, I would unturn and uncover everything in my life. I walked away from the religion I was raised in. I questioned everything inside of my marriage. I questioned everything inside of business. I questioned the core of who I was, because along that line, I found that I had no clue who I was or what the purpose of my life was. And it sounds so fucking cliche when you hear people say it. And when I heard it, I used to feel the same way. It's so cliche. What the hell? That doesn't mean anything. And yet there I was, having built something and given a taste of what life could be like, and then stripped down to a life that was further in the hole than when I was a PE teacher and a football coach with limited money. And that became the birth center of Wake Up Warrior. And that became the birth of the rise from 2009 to 2019 of the next decade of my world of putting together the art and science of what we call the Warrior's Way, which was how I put my life back together.
So take us from that deepest, darkest place that you were in and that first thing that pulled you up and kind of the process through that.
So I started recognizing that I didn't have, I had nothing to offer people. Like when you have money and you have a business and you have like things going on, you appear very sexy to other companies. We were like, oh, you got these leads, you got this thing, da 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 da. And when you're married to a woman who's beautiful and you have money and you have success and you have accolades, well, you're also very attractive. Well, when you can't pay the fucking bills, and the worst is as a guy, is you're like, well, I don't understand why I'm not getting a blowjob right now on a Tuesday. Well, I'll tell you why you're not getting a blowjob on Tuesday, because you haven't paid the bills for the past 2 months. You're not attractive. You're disgusting. Like,
Right.
safety and security means everything. And you're like, if she just have sex with me, then I would be successful. No, asshole, goes the other direction. You need to be successful, and then she's going to have sex with you. You're actually very disgusting right now because you can't pay the bills, and she had to sell your triathlon bike to put groceries in the fridge, which was a real deal. So I realized the only resource I had available to me in 2009 was one thing, which was the truth. Like, I didn't have anything else. I hired a guy by the name of Ron Zeller in 2009. He was a Landmark Forum leader. He was also from Utah, knew me, Gunderson, and the whole crew back in the time. And I hired him for $10,000 for 10 calls. And I remember it was right when I short sold our final piece of property. I short sold our house that we were in, and we were moving into a rental. And I had to make a decision. Like, I was sitting there, I had to make a decision between pay $10,000 for this coaching for 10 calls or pay the mortgage. Like, pay the mortgages or pay the coach.
Right.
Now, the guilt and then me, I was like, oh, I got to pay the mortgages. I got to pay the mortgages. But I remember I was out there shoveling snow. I was like, shoveling snow by myself, feeling worthless, shoveling snow, just to fucking get out of the house. I mean, wife didn't want to talk to me. I understood. You know, I hadn't been around for like 7 years. I'd been there, but I wasn't around. I wasn't involved. I didn't care about her. Why the fuck would she care about me now, particularly now when I had nothing? So I'm like shoveling. And there's this distinct thought that comes in. If you pay your mortgage, you'll feel good for a week. And 3 weeks after that, you're still going to be dumb.
Yeah.
And guess how much the bank's going to give a shit? Zero going to give a shit. Which means they're still going to go forward with the proceedings regardless. Or you could invest in this coach and you can become bigger than the problem and you can start to dig your way out. And it was the first big decision I had ever made. I had hired Steve D'Annunzio before that, and I'd done a ton of the Rich Dad Poor Dad series with Robert Kiyosaki and paid for a lot of coaching, real estate, et cetera. But this was the first time I didn't even know what I was signing up for. So I get on the call with Ron Zeller, very first phone call. I make that investment. I don't tell my wife because at this point I'm like, I'm so fucked with her, it doesn't even matter. I'm going to do this thing. And I get on the call with him, and the first thing he says to me is, okay. I said, well, what are we going to call it? What are we going to cover in this call? And he said, we're going to work on one thing. He's, what's that? We're going to work on integrity. He's like, this 10 calls, our entire goal is to help you become an integritous man, to get you in integrity. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're a liar. You've been trained to be a liar. You've been taught to be a liar. You behave like a liar. He's like, you're a fucking liar. And so our work together for the next 10 calls is going to be about helping you come to terms with what integrity actually is. It's not about the truth. It's the getting into integrity, that what you do on the outside, what you say on the outside is alignment with what you actually feel and see on the inside.
When he said that to you, I mean, you know, if he had said that to you 5 years ago, you would have been like, fuck off, right? I know what I'm doing. Fuck you, you're stupid, right? And here you are, or you're already beaten down. Like, how did you accept that? Did you accept it? And you owned it? Other
option.
Oh.
So, yeah. I mean, dude, listen, 2006, I'm sitting with a guy named Mark Eldridge. Mark Eldridge is an amazing human being. He passed away with some lung issues that came up like 3 years after. It was like 2009 he died. Young kid, super sad, huge builder in Salt Lake City, Utah, one of the most successful developers there. And I was sitting on his Masscraft X80 at Bear Lake in Utah on the lake. He has his oxygen tank on. He had been diagnosed with this disease. They knew he had a couple years to live only. And I looked at him and he said two things to me in 2006. This is summer of 2006. He said, sell everything, go to cash, shrink your companies, sit on the sideline. Second thing he told me, spend more time with your wife.
Wise
And of
dude.
course, I thought, who the fuck is this old guy, Craig? I'm like, fuck this guy. I'm like, I hear you, but you know, and I was even probably arrogant of in my own mind of like, yeah, you're dying, you know, that's probably why you're saying that. And which, dude, I was so like
Dude, he
unconscious.
nailed it.
I mean, so I'm sitting there in a miserable situation, which most men tend to not do shit about their business or about their lives. Like they don't do much until a traumatic or dramatic thing occurs.
Right.
Then they choose to listen. So, dude, I had nothing. I literally had nothing. I had a couple $1,000s in the bank besides what I had given this guy, Ron Zeller, and the calls worked. I recorded each one of them. He even told me, I was like, are you going to record the calls and send them to me with notes? He's like, no. He's like, you want to record it? You figure out how to record it, and when you record it, and you handle it. And I was like, okay. And for 10 calls, he literally helped me become aware of how big of a liar I was. And then that became the foundation for Warrior. It was this work I did with Ron Zeller. He was, again, a Landmark Forum leader for 36 years. I'd attended the Landmark Forum back in 2006. It was a good experience for me, but I was not even mentally in a place to even understand it. And so here I am in 2009, and I'm having these deep, profound insights. At the same time, I start ultra running. So I had finished Ironman World Championships in 2007. 2008, I started ultra running. And I started running 20, 30 miles a day. I dropped down 172 pounds in weight, which I'm a 200-pound guy, which, you know, almost 30 pounds off of my body frame. I looked sick, like I'd been starving myself, but it was because I was running. I was running 20 miles a day, 20 miles in the morning, 15 miles in the morning, 30. I was entering 100-mile races, 150-mile foot race. I would just run. So meanwhile, I'm coaching Ron. I'm running all the time. I'm losing all this weight. I have no idea what I'm doing. I leave the religion I'm raised in. My wife is like, this guy's a fucking psychopath. Now he's literally gone off the reservation. Everyone around me is like, he's a nut job. He's a complete and utter fucking nut job. And at that time, Chris Crone, who owned REIC, now it's called Stonebrook, gave me a job. And I worked for him in Orem and started working on this project called Awaken Soul Purpose. And that became the second piece of the equation, which was answering these two ideas. Who am I? And what is the purpose of my life? And what I came to find out in this for me was two simple answers. Over years of study and working with the Ashaya monks for years and just going down every path I could find to try to search for truth for me was I am who I believe I am. Nothing more, nothing less. Which means a producer, as a business owner watching this, your business is limited by who you believe you are. That's it. And what you believe you're worth and what you believe you can create. So that was the first piece. And the second piece was the purpose of my life was not perfection. The purpose of my life was expansion. And then I've been so hard on myself about trying to do everything perfect. And I was raised in Mormonism. And so that culture is very, very driven, very, very driven in a lot of productive ways. And at the same time, my interpretation of it was perfection. And so the perfection lens had caused me to paint myself into a box. And it was a very guilt-driven, shame-driven box that I just couldn't get free of. And so I started building. And I started building off of these two ideas that the purpose of my life is expansion, which is today I need to be better as a man than I was yesterday. Today I need to be better as a businessman than I was yesterday. I don't have to be the best. I just have to be one step better than I was yesterday. And that's progress. And that my eternities are now, not someplace I'm going to go to. And so I'll just work on today. And then, yeah, but what about next year? I was like, I don't know about next year. But what I know is I'm going to deal with it today. And like an alcoholic trying to stop drinking, like, are you going to drink tomorrow? Probably going to drink tomorrow. Well, are you going to drink today? No, for sure. Today I'm not going to drink. Or are you going to drink tomorrow? Oh, I'm going to probably get fucking hammered tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes, you're like, what are you going to do today? Well, I'm for sure not drinking today.
Yeah.
Well, what are you doing tomorrow? Oh, dude, I'm probably going to be on a plane to Vegas with a line of Coke and fucking just smashing it. I'm going to be done, like for sure. But what are you going to do today? Right now, today, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to read my books, and I'm going to go to AA this morning. Okay, and then tomorrow comes in, and so I started playing it almost like a recovering alcoholic, where I just dealt with today, and the screaming from my wife, and the disappointment from family, and the clients and the banks constantly calling, and all the money I owe people, and just the pressure. I just shut everyone out. And I just worried about this. What can I do right now?
What can you control?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. So talk about that journey from there to, yeah, I guess where you are today, but like, I mean, how did you mend those relationships and how did that look?
I came to discover like to create. So insurance is an interesting world because if you deal with insurance and the conversation of human life value, it's like people don't really get it, right? Like right now, my application is in for another 75 million in life insurance, right? And people are like, well, I never could appreciate the fact that you have to actually be a producer at a certain level to qualify for certain things. Like on top of with the permanent insurance I have in play right now, which I think is like 14 million in whole life. And then another 75 million in convertible term, which will convert like 10 million over the next, every year over the next, anyways, there's like a process and strategy we're doing with this, but human life value as a concept is something that most human beings, including 99% of life insurance agents, are just fucking retarded about. Like they don't get it. Insurance agents, insurance companies get it though. Like it's the most pure way to look at what a human being is. A man's value can be measured. It's not, oh, I'm worth $1 billion. You're not worth $1 billion. Like who you are as a soul is infinite in its capacity and its potential. But when it comes to productivity, no, sorry, you're worth $835,000. What? Yeah. Well, guess what? If you died today, based on how much you've proven yourself as a producer, your human life value dictates the following into the future value of your lifespan would be worth X per year over 20, over 30, over 40, or permanently until you die, which now they push it like 120 years. You're like, okay, so that's how much you're worth. So I started looking at human life value from a very different place and realized that I was the source of everything in my world. There was a power that came through me, but I had to make the decision to act on it. I had to make the decision to move, to do the thing that this voice was telling me, do this thing, do this thing. So I started. And the first thing it brought me to was like, listen, you keep trying to solve your business problems by solving your business problems. You have a bigger problem that's fucking this up. Like you just have a problem. It's like somebody pouring tar in your gas tank. Like you got this amazing car, you got a Lamborghini, Ferrari, whatever you got, and you're pouring tar into the gas tank. And then you try to start the car and you're dealing with the tires. You're like, well, the fucking tires. If I had better tires, then my car would work better. Like, no, you don't have a tire problem. You have a tar problem. There's tar in the gas tank. So I was like, all right, I'm going to deal with the tar, which is in me. And from that place, I'll make some new decisions. And so I started there. And I said, I'm not going to solve my business problems by solving my business problems. I'm going to solve my business problems by solving me. I'm going to deal with my human life value. My human life value is currently low. I'm not insurable at a high level because who I am as a producer is shitty. My marriage value is low. My human life value as a man and as a husband, my stock price is low. Why are you not getting laid? Because you suck as a husband. Now, my stock value as a father is low. Why do your kids not give a shit when you walk in the house? Because you suck as a father. Okay, my human life value is low. My doctors say that I'm going to get pre-diabetic. I'm this, I'm that. Listen, you're not insurable because your body is shit and you're drinking too much and you're smoking too much weed and you're eating too many Doritos and whatever goes on here. Well, my human life value is low. So I started looking at it from place, okay, what's the first thing that I know I can control with my human life value? My body. Okay. I can't make any money, but I can't tell the truth. I can tell the truth. I don't know how to do the money thing again yet, but I can't control my body. And so I noticed that there was a deeper level of certainty in me when I worked out. So every day I started tracking. I was like, okay, I'm going to see what happens on the days I work out and the days I don't work out. And see if I feel different in sales calls or like getting into conference calls or being in meetings. And sure enough, I noticed a massive difference. Massive. Like it's always fun for me to deal with people who deal in the conversation of protection, which is your audience, right? So yes, all of you overweight insurance agents, what the fuck? It's like as bad as having an overweight chiropractor.
Right.
It's like, dude, I'm trying to listen to you, but I can't hear you. You're talking about protecting people's lives, but you're not even protecting yourself. You're walking around, you're the guy that's 35, 45, 75 pounds overweight trying to give me advice about supplements. I was like, fuck off about your supplements. I don't want to hear shit about you because obviously whatever it is, it's not working for you. because I'm gonna go by what you live, not by what you learn. This also goes out to all the agents that are watching this who continue to pitch life insurance, but you don't have life insurance, or you just have term insurance, but you keep pitching whole life and banking when the fact is you don't do that shit. You're a fucking hypocrite.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna get on my soapbox now. So I deal with my body, and that seemed to work. The second thing I realized is I could also deal with my being, which for me was like meditation and studying things that inspired me. And so I started tracking that every day. And I noticed it when I meditated and when I connected with a sense of this voice, this thing in me, God, or whatever you called it. In that place, as I connected with it, I felt more productive. And I didn't have to have a six pack, and I didn't have to be like, some pastor leading a big church to feel that kind of power. I shouldn't be heading in that direction every day. Okay, so I worked out, I sweat, I feel good. Okay, I meditated, I connected, I feel good. The third thing I noticed is that my wife and I rarely spent any productive time together. So there were two things I started doing. One, I started requiring a date night every week, which evolved now, and a decade later, we run a podcast called Date Your Wife, which is very popular. People love that podcast. It's my wife and I basically going to therapy every week on our show with ourselves. We're just like dealing with shit. People are like, you realize it sounds like you were really angry on that show. I was like, oh, we were. My wife almost walked out the fucking studio. We were doing real shit. Okay.
That's awesome.
So I started taking my wife on dates. And then the other thing I started doing is I started making daily deposits into my wife's life. I realized, what I need to do? I need to start sending her messages of appreciation, and because I didn't do that. 7 years we're married. I had 8 years of time. I didn't do that. And I started doing it. And she told me to stop sending them and quit sending me messages because she's like, you're a dick and I don't want to hear from you. And I was like, man, so I'd feel bad. But then this piece was like, no, keep sending them. So I just kept sending them. And I would send messages to my ex-wife, and I would send messages to my son. And I started rebuilding relationships in my life with this daily message. I was like, I'm gonna start sending this message every day, even though most people were telling me to fuck off. My mom, when I left the Mormon church, my mom and I didn't really talk for 3 years. And I would start sending my mom messages, and for weeks and weeks and months, my mom wouldn't respond to shit. She was very hurt, very offended, very angry. That's not the case now. All of our relationships are deeply healed, and everyone's on fire, and people come to our house for vacations and holidays, and we're so connected as family now. It's wonderful. But we did go through a very, very dark 5 to 6 year time period while I was figuring out what ultimately became the Warriors Way game, which was a gamified system that now 50,000 plus men in 27 different countries are playing, all inspired, driven by now the curriculum found inside of the Warrior book and the entire breakdown series that's coming. Like, it became this science, but I didn't know that at the time. All I was trying to do was figure out how to be more powerful as a businessman. So I would do body.
To be continue.
Hey, Jason.
Yes, Mr. Craig.
That was another awesome episode, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if people want to get a little bit more action and learn how to write 100,000 in premium
Yes.
off of even the worst internet leads, where could they go?
They can go to live.teledudes.com.
Ooh, that sounds exciting. Are we going to be there?
Yes, it's a weekly call that we're doing right now it's live, and it will show you the process. The entire process is super awesome.
I love it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Sign up right now, live.teledudes.com.
Live.teledudes.com. That's live.teledudes.com.
Hey, Craig, there's a new community that we are starting that I cannot wait to tell everybody about. It is our live texting community where you and I are going to answer people's questions and give them free content, right?
Are you kidding me? We get to talk to them?
Yeah, which is awesome, but they have to opt in. They have to text us at 520-214-2219. That's 520-214-2219.
Nice.
Craig, are you going to respond to these texts?
I'm going to respond to them for sure. Live.
I'm into it too. It's going to be awesome. And it's going to be our new texting community where we're going to get back to everybody that we can and drop some crazy content, free content, and free the calculator that you just came up with.
Mm.
That's right. the calling calculator, sales material. I mean, everything for insurance agents. This is it. It's the best texting community out there for insurance agents.
Well, what the heck is that number again? I can't remember it.
It's 520-214-2219. That's
Okay.
520-214-2219.
I love it. I'm going to text it right now.
520-214-2219.
All right. I'll see you later, Mr. Jason.
Bye, Mr. Craig.
Wait, do they even listen to this on the radio anymore?
I love it. I love it.
Nice.
All right.